Hi students, let's get to know more about poetic and literary devices in this video. In the 10th and the 12th board exams, questions can be asked to infer what are the poetic devices used in certain lines in a poem, or new types of questions have been observed wherein they ask why are these poetic devices used? For example, why do you think a simile or a metaphor is used in a particular line? So we will delve into that. So we will first understand what are poetic devices. These are basically artistic tools which help to enhance meaning, sound, and emotional resonance of a poetry. They include sound patterns, figurative language, structural elements, imagery that contribute to the overall impact of the poem. Sound devices are crucial in shaping the auditory experience of poetry. It creates layers of meaning through sound patterns. The first one is assonance, which is defined as the repetition of vowels which are closely placed next to each other. For example, men, sell, selly, seashells. So if you notice here, all the vowels e are closely linked and positioned in one sentence. For the second one, alliteration, this device involves the repetition of initial consonants, which are positioned again close to each other, and the use of this is to create a musical quality which enhances the rhythm. For example, she sells seashells by the seashore. Now, how does that help? Is if you notice, all the alphabets here, S, and S, again, are used in the same sentence. So all the alphabets S are used in the same sentence. All words are beginning with the alphabet S. This is a classic example of alliteration. Moving ahead, onomatopoeia is the essence of sounds through words that mimic the sounds. For example, words used such as crash, buzz, whisper. This basically adds to the reader's senses beyond visuals. It's adding to their auditory realm. The next one is consonance, which is the repetition of consonant sounds. Now here, it does not matter for the positioning of the words. For example, pitter patter. Here, the quality of sound magnifies the emotional undertones used by the poet. Turning our focus to figurative language, we will see how it transcends literal interpretations and paints vivid imageries. The first one, metaphor, is used when comparison has to be made between two distinct entities without the use of like and as. For example, time is a thief, which means the nature of time as a stealer of moments. In contrast to simile, they use the words like and as to provide clarity through familiarity. For example, her smile was like sunshine, which means conjuring warmth and happiness. A hyperbole, on the other hand, is an exaggeration for a dramatic effect. For example, I am so hungry I could eat a horse. Now, obviously, nobody is going to eat a horse, but it means that because of extreme hunger, it's showing that you can end up eating a horse. It's a clear exaggeration. The next one is personification, where any attributes or qualities of humans are compared with objects or animals. For example, the wind whispered through the trees. This means an emotional connection that is created between the readers and the nature is depicted. So the wind generally does not whisper, okay? It's a human Quality. Human beings whisper. But the wind whispering means that it is making a certain sound, which normally a human being would do. So the quality of a human is compared to an object or a thing, which is wind in this sentence. Structural devices serve as the backbone of poetry. It frames the content and presents the themes in an impactful manner. The first one, couplet, consists of two consecutive lines that typically rhyme to create a harmonious effect on the reader. Generally, these lines are summarized as a theme, which are generally rhyming. The second one, repetition, is a broader term where any word, sound, or a phrase, regardless of its placement in the poem, are repeating. For example, any 2 or 3 words repeating anywhere in the poem stands for repetition. The next, refrain, it is again repetitive lines or phrases in a poem, which is used to emphasize a theme and establish a rhyme. The repetition can resonate deeply with readers and enhance the emotional weight of the piece. The next one, enjambment. When a line runs over from one line of the poetry to the next without any punctuation at the end of the line, such lines are examples of enjambment. Rhyme is the repetition of similar sounds at the end of lines. For example, cat, hat, bat. That's quite simple, but rhyme makes the poems musical and easy to remember. The next one, parallelism, is used when a balance in structures is created in lines. For example, easy come, easy go. Notice how the structure repeats. This gives rhythm and clarity to ideas. The third one, antithesis. This is used when contrasting ideas are placed together in balance. For example, speech is silver, silence is golden. So there's a comparison made between speech, that means noise and talking, and silence. The opposite ideas make the sentence more powerful. Finally, we have climax and anticlimax. Climax is used when ideas are arranged in increasing of importance. He came, he saw, and he conquered. Whereas anticlimax, on the other hand, is a sudden drop in importance. For example, he lost his job, which is important, then his home, and his pen, which is of least importance. This is anticlimax. Students, have you ever read a line in a book that was so vivid and clear that it felt like you could see it, hear it, or even taste it? That's the magic of imagery in literature. Imagery is the use of descriptive language to evoke sensory experiences. It allows the readers to visualize scenes and feel emotions. For example, the golden sun dipped below the horizon, painting the sky with hues of violet and crimson. Can you picture that? Yes, that's imagery at work. The first one, onomatopoeia, which is an auditory image. This uses words that appeal to our senses of hearing, words like buzz, splash, bang, etc. It makes us hear the action as if it's happening right now. The next, tactile imagery, which appeals to our sense of touch. It describes textures, physical sensations. For example, the dense whiteness of the alcohol cutting my throat as it slipped down towards my stomach. You can almost feel that burn, right? Moving on to olfactory images. It's all about smell. Poets often use this to create an immersive atmosphere. The smell of fresh rain, smoke from fire, or the unpleasant odor of a crowded city. Smells can instantly transport us to a particular place. Next one, kinesthetic imagery. It deals with the movement and rhythm. It captures the feeling of motion like running, dancing, or even the pulse of a heartbeat. This transforms still words into vibrant, moving pictures. Last one, gustatory imagery appeals to our sense of taste. Words like sweet, sour, salty, bitter. Example, the lingering aftertaste of lemon on my tongue. You can almost feel the lemon taste. Symbolism is used when objects, characters, or even colors are used to represent bigger ideas. For example, a dove symbolizes peace, while a rose may symbolize love or beauty. By using such symbols, writers add hidden layers of meanings to their texts. Allegory is not just one symbol, it is an entire story or a narrative that represents deeper moral or political meanings. For example, George Orwell's Animal Farm is an allegory. The farm animals represent real political figures which showcase the cruelty through its animal characters. Finally, the motif. It is a recurring element that appears again and again in a story or a poem that carries symbolic meaning. For example, the recurring motif of darkness in literature often represents fear, the unknown, or even death. Motif ties a story together by reinforcing key themes. Have you ever wondered how great speakers and writers make their words so powerful and memorable? The secret often lies in rhetorical devices. Today, we will break down the most 5 important ones. First, we have anaphora. It is a deliberate repetition of the same word or phrase at the beginning of successive lines or sentences. It creates rhythm and evokes strong emotions. For example, Martin Luther King Jr.'s famous speech, "I have a dream, I have a dream." That's anaphora in action. So the consecutive lines are beginning with the same phrase, "I have a dream." Next, epiphora. It is a repetition but at the end of successive sentences or phrases. It drives focus and intensity. For example, for the people, by the people, to the people. Notice how the repetition at the end makes it more powerful and memorable. Now let's look at oxymorons, which is a device that combines two contradictory terms. Think of a phrase like bittersweet or deafening silence. They sound opposite, but together they express a deeper meaning. Then we have rhetorical questions. These are questions asked by the poet or the writer, not to get an answer in return, but to make the reader or listener think. For example, who cares? The purpose isn't an answer, but it's to provoke a thought. Finally, the paradox. It's a statement that seems to contradict itself, but actually reveals a deeper truth. For example, less is more. At first, it sounds impossible, but it suggests that simplicity can have a greater impact than complexity. Irony happens when there is a difference between expectations and reality. For example, imagine a fire station burning down. It's unexpected and creates humor as well as depth. Irony makes readers think twice about situations. Next is elision. This is when words are omitted, but the meaning still remains clear. For example, she likes cake, he, pie. So the word likes is omitted in the second part, but we still understand the meaning. Now let's look at allusion. It is a brief reference to a well-known story, event, or person without any long explanation. For example, Saying that with his Pandora's box immediately reminds us of Greek mythology and its unforeseen consequences. It shares cultural knowledge. The next one, synecdoche. This is when a part represents the whole or the whole represents a part. For example, all hands on deck. Here, hands refer to the entire crew, not just their hands. It makes language more direct and powerful. And finally, we have apostrophe. This is used when a speaker addresses someone absent or even an abstract idea as if it were alive. For example, O death, where is thy sting? Here death is spoken to as if it were a person. Apostrophe dramatizes emotions, makes the expressions more intense. Poetic licenses is the freedom that a writer takes to ignore rules, bend facts, or even invent words for a stronger effect. For example, a poet may describe stars shining in the morning sky. In reality, stars aren't visible in the morning, but it creates a dreamy, magical image. Such licenses allow writers to change details, change facts, ignore grammar, spellings, or even punctuation rules. They can invent words or phrases and even alter history to make the story or poem more dramatic. Now let's look at transferred epithet. This is used when an adjective is transferred from the person to something closely related, creating a deeper emotional effect. For example, he spent a sleepless night. The night isn't sleepless, the person is. They had a heated argument. The argument is not literally heated, but the emotions are intense. Puns are delightful twists where words sound similar but mean totally different. For example, I used to be a baker but could not make enough money dough. Now, dough here means the bread and money. Next, satire. It is a sharp, witty cousin of a humor. It uses irony, exaggeration to critique society and human behavior. Think of the show like The Simpsons. They don't just make you laugh, they are pointing out real issues but in a hilarious way. Parody and imitation. The device mimics the style or content of existing work to create a humorous effect. To learn more and improve your scores in English, join my classes now. Do like, share, and subscribe to my channel. To know more about the online classes, comment below. Thanks for watching.